performance like an athlete would. So I'm watching film at the end of this to see how well I did. So I think one of the best ways to illustrate or kind of get to dive in is to show you a case study. And the case study is designed to illustrate how we sometimes get branding wrong. And what I want to kind of describe to you is that branding, the way I'm going to approach it today, is about the look and feel of your business that is intentionally designed to make sure that you convey the right feelings in your target audience. And so let me introduce you to a lady named MJ Impastato. MJ Impastato, let me see if I can get there. Hold on a second. Okay, so here's MJ. MJ is a life coach. Now, this is a very small business. She's a solopreneur, but this process works for huge companies, multi-billion-dollar companies. It's nice to be able to work with a small company because there's less politics involved. So MJ is a life coach, and she had developed a website and a logo and some marketing materials, and she was embarrassed about them. She did not feel that they reflected her and the product that she was promoting. And one of the things I noticed right away, so this is a photo of her on her website. When you want to know more about MJ Impastato, this is her picture. And the brochure on the right is kind of a handout that she would send. But this reflected some of her branding and marketing materials. But I noticed that she had this peacock feather, and the peacock feather was a symbol in a lot of the things she was doing. And I was confused by that. I'm like, what's the deal with the peacock? And she said, well, I love the jeweled colors. I often use those colors in my my coaching, because she also leverages the chakras and a little bit of that Eastern philosophy in her practice to get your chakras aligned and to be centered. And each of these different colors means something. She also loved the vibrance in the colors, and it reflected the personality that she wanted to convey in her business. The challenge we see here is that nothing about her marketing materials at this point would suggest anything about vibrance and personality. In fact, it looks very safe. It looks very muted and boring. What she doesn't realize is that she is choosing colors and fonts and textures and imagery that is designed to make people feel pacified, relaxed, almost bored, okay? So it's not about necessarily good design layout, which any designer can do a really good job, but she's using the wrong ingredients. So in fact, one of her, these are some of the photos that she had on her website that reflected either her process or her clients or some of the need states of her customers. And so she was just frustrated because her branding didn't reflect who she was, nor did it inspire the feelings that she wanted her customers to feel about her company. And so the first thing I did is I wanted to know, like, what makes you different? So as a life coach, as a small business, there are so many different life coaches out there, and you don't have to have a degree or anything. So they're like popping up all over the place, and everybody feels like, oh man, I need a life coach. So man, sometimes I feel like I need a life coach. So I asked, what makes you different? And we explored a whole bunch of different things. What we found is that what made her different was this. She always gravitated back to this peacock feather. And I'm like, man, this peacock feather is like a big deal to you. And so what we ended up doing, and a brand, by the way, a brand has nothing to do, or very, very little to do, with your business product. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So what we found is that her kind of focus on a peacock feather became the thing that symbolized or catalyzed all the other differences about her company. And so she wanted to be vibrant and energetic and exciting and colorful. And so we ended up starting to go, okay, so who are you attracted to? Who is your clientele that you're trying to reach? And she said, I'm looking for high achievers. They're 30 to 50 years old. They're intensely independent. They're hard on themselves. So basically creates a profile, a very specific profile, the type of person that she was looking for. Now, this is important because when you identify your core customer, you can then fashion the right visual language that's highly attractive to those people. Not what you like personally or what you think is attractive. It's you got to get in the heads of your customer to find out what do they like. Another thing is we wanted to find out, like, the third element of this brand development is finding your core belief. And there's 4 principal elements. So the third one is find your core belief or realize that core belief. And the reason that's important is that all the other branding things that you do, the way you market, the language you use, the visuals you use, they need to inspire that belief for why you do what you do. Because everybody on this call are smart people, creative people. You could probably make a living doing almost anything. So why do you do what you do? If you understand why Simon Sinek calls it your why. What is your why? When you understand your why, you can filter all of your messaging through that. And I'm going to show you a little bit more of an example a little bit later on. The last step, the 4th step, is to define your brand adjectives. These are adjectives that you want people to think and feel about you. The reason this is important is that when you know what adjectives you want to describe you, you can then design an experience for the customer, website, logo, marketing materials, podcast, whatever it is that you're doing. You can design that experience to elicit that reaction. Now, and here's what's cool about it. If your competitors have this empty space in the market, like let's say Paul, your company, everybody's being intellectual in your market, and you feel, man, I just don't feel energized by being intellectual, even though I work with scientists. Is there a way for me to develop a personality for my business that is very distinctive from all the other competitors? What adjectives would I use to describe that brand that I visualize? And then once you identify those adjectives, you can create the look and feel that when you line up all the different competitors, yours stands out, and it stands out with meaning. It stands out for purpose, and it elicits those really cool feelings that you want to elicit. So for Mojo, she said, I want to be vibrant. People describe me as gifted. It's like I have a natural, intuitive way of kind of drilling down and finding the mojo inside people. She wants to be authentic and professional, and all these different adjectives describe the brand that she wants to be. So you can see that her previous brand, that boring brand, does not look and feel like this. In fact, one of the things I did is I built this tool for her called the brand matrix that basically allowed us to use her brand adjectives, vibrant, gifted, magic, authentic, and then professional on this other side, to help discover or find the right brand assets, colors, fonts, textures, language, things like that you use in your marketing materials. In your, gosh, if you have a brick and mortar, these are the textures, materials that you would use in building out your customer experience, your store or your shop or whatever. So, for example, if she came up with, hey, look, I really like this light pea green. Okay, light pea green. Where does that color fit on this brand matrix? Is it vibrant? Is it magic? It's probably professional, so it might be up a little bit higher, but it's definitely in the keep pushing area. If she wanted to sponsor an event, what would it look and feel like? What type of an event would it be? Would it be bowling? Well, where does that fit? Does she have a big bowling convention thing? Where does that fit on here? Is it vibrant? Is it gifted? Is it magic? Maybe she would do something like a Harry Potter thing, or like a, I don't know, some science fiction thing that drives her passion. Now, if that is attractive to her customers, then that would be an ideal type of promotion to do. So this brand matrix kind of takes the objectivity, what is it, the personal interpretation of the brand out of the picture. You no longer have to ask somebody, hey, is this on, do you like this? It doesn't matter if they like it. Is it on brand? Does it reflect the personality that we want to convey in our brand? So unfortunately, what most people do is we get branding wrong from the start because we develop a logo right away and we want to build a website and without even actually answering all of these questions. So like Mojo, she had this really kind of boring brand because she needed a logo and she needed a website, she needed marketing materials, and she wanted to have this peacock feather in there, and it just didn't quite nail everything down. It didn't reflect who she was. So what colors would this type of a brand use? Well, she probably used jewel tones. Now it's obvious now with the strategy in place. Of course, these would be the colors that she would use. They mean something and they excite her and they're attractive to her audience. Another one is like, what vocabulary, what words would you use in your marketing materials so that when you say, when you express your message, when you extend an invitation for to buy your product or service or enroll in your program or whatever, what language do you use that flavors the personality of your message so that you don't sound like everybody else? So in her case, we used words like magic, color, vitality, vibrance, intensity, beautiful, transformational, these kinds of things. So that when someone's reading about her marketing materials versus somebody else's marketing materials, people who want to have a vibrant or exciting experience, they'll choose her because it's obvious that's the kind of person that she is. We even chose fonts that reflected her brand: professional, clean, but bold and inspiring. We even have this handwritten one down here, the gloss and bloom, the accent logo font, because we want it to be authentic and personal, handwritten. So all these different choices are in line with the strategy that we created in those first 4 steps. Photography was the same way. We needed to use photography that was highly saturated and vibrant. We got to get rid of these boring, lame, desaturated colors. So to give you a sense of what it looked like before, so on the left, you see this is before. We're using the exact same content, the exact same messaging on the right, but we're using the right ingredients, the branding elements that are in line with her strategy that she wants to convey a specific feeling or emotional response. So before, this is what it looked like, and after. Same ingredients or same message, but different ingredients that share a much different feeling or personality. So are you guys tracking with me? I want to make sure that you guys you're tracking with me. Give me a thumbs up if you're like, okay, I got it. Okay, good. Okay, here's another example, and I'm going to do a little bit of Q&A, or we'll dive in a little deeper for 1 or 2 of you guys to kind of go through this exercise. So here's kind of an interesting story. Years ago, I worked for Maverick, and I was astounded at the different kinds of bottled water we sold. Now, the reason I bring up this this illustration is that many times in business, we offer a product or service that is very similar to our competitors. And we try to, like, traditional marketing says, what is different about your product? So that we can talk about those differences. Unfortunately, those differences are often underappreciated and undervalued. And the products that we offer are so similar. And I thought, in what product category are there the least amount of differences? And I thought, okay, bottled water. Okay, the differences between bottled water are measured in the parts per million. So in your industry, you probably have greater differences in your product and services than water. But let's take a deep dive of water and figure out what they're able to command different prices. And ultimately, a brand and the marketing that goes with that brand, effective ones are designed to get the most amount of money as we can for our product and service. The objective is not to race to the bottom line, like the least amount of money. Oh, I'm going to provide a tremendous amount of value and I'm going to charge as low as I possibly can. And then your customers go, well, I can charge less and I can provide more. And then you are forced with going, how do I provide more with doing less? Great brands don't play the price game. They demand a premium price. So in water, you've got this one. This is like $1.29. This is a common regional water here in the Mountain West. Everybody knows what it is. Have you ever heard of this one? 10,000 BC. This bottle of water is 28 bucks. This one right here, Bling, 100 is $40. It's got little rhinestones on the packaging. This one's called Felico. Felico has a Swarovski crystals on the bottle, and it's $219. But it's not the most expensive one. The most expensive bottle of water in the world is this one. It's called Agua Cristillo de Tributo de Modigliani. Okay, insane. $3,600 for a bottle of water. Now, what's crazy is the differences in the product are measured in the parts per million, but there's this huge difference in price. So what is the difference? Well, the difference is in the brand. And that brand is the packaging. That's first of all, the packaging. And that packaging is designed to elicit a specific feeling and attract a certain type of customer. Okay. So for the Arrowhead bottle of water, it is consumer grade. It is for people who are actually thirsty. The other bottles of water, they're not for people who are thirsty. They're trying to make a statement. And so like this one here, Agua Cristillo, this is not for somebody who just got out of the gym and is looking for a bottle of water because he's thirsty. That's not this person. This person buys this water because they have more money than they know what to do with, and they want to create a statement to all of the people who see this decanter. It's really about the decanter, not the water. And the decanter is made of gold and crystal. And it's made by this guy, Modigliani. The guy on the right is Modigliani. He made the most, or he designed the most expensive bottle of tequila in the world, which is a picture of him holding it. The water also has, I think, 5 milligrams of 24 karat gold dust in there to make it sparkle. I don't think there's any like nutritional value in that gold. It's just excessive. But the idea behind, the reason I bring this up is that the water is the same, nearly the same. This one has a little bit of gold in it. So of all those different brands, the water is the same, but the price is crazy different. Yet in our marketing and branding and advertising, we almost always talk about the product differences. And in a world where product differences are minimal, there's the advantage that we need to take is, or the strategy we need to employ is helping our customers think differently about our company, not the product. So what does branding do? So, good branding helps people distinguish between sources. One bottle of water versus another bottle of water. Oh, there's a logo, there's colors, whatever. Good branding does that. In fact, in the cattle business, a brand, all it does is really say, hey, Bar H is different than Rockin' L Ranch. Oh, I see the difference, but I don't know what all it is difference. There's no real meaning that comes from that. But what great branding does, really great branding does, is it's attractive to its core customers. It quickly communicates its unique differences. It expresses the personality of the company. And most importantly, it creates an emotional connection to the audience it's trying to reach. Now, why is this important? Why do we care about the emotional connection? I've been drilling this whole emotional thing because here's the thing. We think we're like logical people making decisions based on facts and figures and cost benefit. But brain science over and over and over again has proven that 95% of all purchasing decisions are subconscious. They're at an emotional level that we're not even aware of. By the time we start thinking about cost benefit, the decision was already made. Here's another one. Consumers by Antonio Damasio. He's a professor of neuroscience at USC. He says, consumers primarily use emotions rather than information. Yet most of our marketing is talking about what's different about your product. Okay, that's a road to failure. We do need to have, by the way, don't get me wrong, we do need to have differences in the product. We need to present that in a way that's emotionally compelling. Identify the differences in your product. Now, how do we create an emotionally compelling visual and verbal difference in the marketing itself to get a customer to go, I'm going to consider your product, or I'm going to think about your product, or I'm going to feel good about your product. Let me give you an example of the studies or the testing that was done to prove these two different points. The first one is this: does more expensive wine taste better? Now, I'm not a wine drinker, but I have been to like grocery stores where there's like a gazillion bottles of wine, and I have no idea. I would have no idea how to choose a wine if I were to even choose one. There's wine that's really inexpensive, and there's wine that's really expensive. The question that was asked of, oh man, it was, I think it was Cal State that did this study. What they decided to do was to measure the brain activity of, in the pleasure senses, the prefrontal cortex of the brain, to see if the experience of tasting these different wines would elicit a different reality. Would they enjoy it more? Which wine did people enjoy more? Expensive wine or inexpensive wine? So they hooked these guys up to all these test subjects up to a fMRI machine, and they put them in this fMRI machine, and they fed them. All subjects were fed the exact same wine, but one group was told the wine is $5. In their brains, they imagined all the attributes that go with a $5 bottle of wine: the production, the image, the personality of a $5 bottle of wine. Their brains kind of went, meh, it's okay. Same wine, different groups, but they were told, oh, this wine is $35 a bottle. They associate all these different branding attributes with a more expensive bottle of wine. Their brains lit up much more. This is the prefrontal cortex is subconscious. You can't just make it happen. It is totally you're unaware of this. Their experience was, wow, this is really good wine. It's not what they say, it's what their brains did. So what this tells us is that branding, creating an experience, actually makes a real difference in the minds of our consumers. If you develop a brand that is compelling and interesting, their brains light up subconsciously, and they'll prefer that regardless of price. And I think that's why like Apple does such a great job of selling their phones. Like you can make a call and send messages and take pictures and stuff with any phone. But Apple is able to charge a much more premium price because they say, well, our products are for creative people, for people who don't want to be, the same. So, or be with the crowd. We want to be individuals. So, branding is the personality and values of a company expressed in how it looks, what it does, and what it says. It's kind of like how we choose our friends by how they look, what they do, what they say, how they say it. So we choose to do business with companies that look attractive to us by what they do. Are they involved in charities, organizations, or in athletics, or whatever it is that we find interesting? And then by what they say, how they say it, what vocabulary do they use, what's their tone? So we choose to do business with companies that reflect our own personal attitudes. Now, one of the things I want to make sure, I'm going to restate this, is that branding has little to do with your product. Now, imagine this in the world of sport. You got all these different basketball teams, right? Each one of them, their product is basketball. They want to win games. But each of these different brands choose a mascot or a item that they can create a story about to differentiate. You've got I'm not even sure what a Knick is, like a Knickerbocker maybe, short pants or something like that. I know San Antonio Spurs, Denver Nuggets, Timberwolves, Utah Jazz. What does Jazz have to do with basketball? Now, it had something to do with New Orleans, where the team came from, but Jazz has nothing to do with basketball, neither do the Bulls. All of these different brand elements, Bulls, colors, and stuff, create a personality. They create visual difference, verbal difference. You can create t-shirts and toys and merchandise around these different brands that enthuse and generate fanatics around those different attributes. Now imagine if basketball teams approached business the way most businesses do, and they focus on their product. They would say that we're the Denver basketballers, and our product of basketball is way better than Los Angeles basketballers. You know, but the problem is, like, there's such little difference in basketball, like the same ball, same hoop, same floor, same everything. So if you're promoting your basketballness in the basketball world, there's not going to be much difference. So the reason I bring this up is that it's easy for us to kind of always fall back to the traditional marketing of what makes your product different, and that's what you should develop your brand on. Not the case. Basketball teams don't do it. Most really great companies don't do it. So why should you do that? So how do you create a personality for your company that's not in line, or that's not all centered on your product? So let me show you. So I'm going to do branding design 101 for you. Now, this isn't intended to be comprehensive at all, but it'll give you an idea. So the biggest thing to remember is that brand elements, design elements, they have emotional meaning already associated with them. So like colors and fonts and textures and things like that, they have emotional meaning ascribed to them already. So the first thing you do is determine the meaning you want associated with your brand. Then select the design elements that already have that inherent meaning in them. You don't choose your favorite color just because it's your favorite color. There's actually something, there's called color psychology, that when someone sees a color, it elicits a specific emotional reaction. So let's start with that, colors. If your brand was supposed to be energetic and passionate and aggressive, assertive, it would be in your best interest to choose a color in the red spectrum. If it's natural and fresh and soothing and energetic, you would choose something in the green zone. So, but unfortunately, we go, oh, my favorite color is blue, and I want to be energetic and fun and exciting. It's like, unfortunately, blue is not associated with that. Blue makes people feel calm, assured, safe. That's why companies like IBM use blues. And in fact, the more desaturated the color, the more pacified, more stable and safe the color is. So if you know what your adjectives are that you want to describe your brand, you choose the right colors to promote that. You could remember MJ's case study at the very beginning. She was using all these desaturated elements, yet her brand was supposed to be vibrant and energetic. Next is like our shapes. Okay, which of these two shapes, and I want you guys, hopefully you're on camera. If you're not on camera, I want you to be on camera for a second because I want to test you on this. Which of these two shapes is friendlier? Point to it. Right. Point to it. Okay. Okay, the one on the right is friendlier. Now, why is that? Isn't that crazy? It's true. Here's why. Because nature has told us that pokey things hurt, and that things with rounded corners are softer and safer. So when we create design elements, using things with rounded edges actually creates a softer feel. So having fonts that have softer corners will create a friendlier experience. Now, things that have sharp edges are more clinical. They're more professional. They're tighter. So what feeling do you want to convey? Then choose the right shapes in your design elements to convey those feelings. Here's another one. Which of these two shapes has energy? Point to the one that has energy. Okay, right, the one on the right. The one on the right, or sorry, the one on the left has energy. The one on the left has energy. It's slanted, it's tilted. And why is that? Because we associate those in things in real life, objects in real life that are moving, have motion, that have an angle to them. Sprinters and runners, they're at an angle. They're not straight up and down. So if you wanted to convey something safe, you would have something more like a rectangle, a square, or a pyramid if you wanted to get a little bit crazy. Those are safe and solid and immovable. If you want to have something with energy and excitement in it, you'd use things with angles. The same thing with applies to design and graphic design element. You see there's a light blue one in the center is techie looking. It communicates technology. The yellow one is sports. It's got grit. It's got angles. If I wanted to develop a brand for a ranch that is sophisticated and rugged and Western, I would use these wood textures. But I can also create a brand that is, what if we developed a brand for a techie steakhouse where they use the coolest new technology to make steak? Well, yeah, you could actually use the middle one with some different color variations to make it like, we're a techie steak company. And the logo and the fonts and all the interior design would look all technical and cool, right? So there's ways to express the emotions that you want to elicit in a customer based on textures and patterns and backgrounds and things like that. Same is true for fonts. I actually took the liberty of describing the font in the font. So as you look through these fonts, you might go, you know what, I kind of use safe and boring, or I use modern, or I use bold outdoors. So these are like, and there's a gazillion fonts. You can find a font that reflects the personality you want to convey. So what we've discussed about so far is all these different ingredients that you can use to create a visual design for your website, for your logos, for your packaging, for your interior design, for whatever customer experience that they get. Radio spots are about tone and sound. You can do all these things. You can create any of these messages with a prescribed, predetermined brand library, like an ingredient list. Use the same ingredients, you'll get the same outcome. So these are the 4 steps. The first one, F, find your brand spark. Now, I'm gonna show you this illustration, and then we're actually gonna do this. I'm gonna choose one of you and we're gonna do this. So this company, C-Force was introduced to me, the bottled water. It was introduced to me when I was working at Maverick as their marketing director. We did a promotion together and they wanted to sell more of their water. The water wasn't selling. And so I asked them to develop a billboard. So they came up with this. Purity is C-Force, only available at Maverick. Maverick was the first retailer that sold C-Force. It still didn't sell. And I said, well, here's the problem. You're focusing your message on purity, one of your brand attributes that you think is really special. Can we take a look at your brand elements, what it is about you that we can use to find the most compelling brand attribute? And then we use that as your brand spark, the brand spark that creates all the messages and the focus for your marketing materials. So I said, yeah. Or they said, yeah, let's take a look. So I started listing them. It comes from an artesian spring. Is that really, really interesting? Is that different? Is that compelling? It's like, oh, when I open a cooler door at a Maverick, do I look for, I wonder which one has an artesian spring? It's not really that compelling. Next is from Navasota, Texas. If you've ever been in Navasota, you'll know that there's nothing refreshing and cool and thirst quenching about Navasota. It's bottled at the source. That would suggest that the closer proximity it is to the source, the less time there is for the product to get contaminated or whatever. So that tends to lean into the purity. It's uncommonly pure. When the water was discovered on a ranch, the water was tested by hydrologists and they said it was super, super pure. So they basically took their branding cue from hydrologists. Probably not a good idea. So next time you meet a hydrologist, don't take their branding advice, just note their information. It has naturally high pH. In a world where healthy water is now being marketed and pH becomes a big deal, bottled water companies now indicate the level of pH in their bottles of water. Unfortunately, it's super, super easy to change the pH by adding salt to the water. Well, all these things so far are like, there's nothing really here to create a brand spark. Well, it actually came from Chuck Norris's ranch. Chuck Norris is the rancher that was drilling for water to irrigate his field. It actually was on his ranch. He decided he's going to bottle this water to sell it and then use the proceeds of the water to give to a charity that he founded called Kickstart Kids. I said, well, why are you focusing so much on purity? That's your message, when Chuck Norris obviously seems to be the big brand spark. And they should know that. Chuck Norris is a global phenomenon. Yeah, he's getting older, but he's still highly recognized. And so instead of focusing on purity, if we were to focus the message on Chuck Norris as the difference in the water, the website or the billboard would look like this. In fact, we did. This was the new billboard. And sales started to come in because people, when they open up the refrigerator door, they went, I heard about this Chuck Norris water. I'm interested in Chuck Norris. He sounds interesting. I want to find that. The color of the bottle is red. Early on, they decided to be different. And they chose red as their packaging color because most bottled water wasn't red. The difference was not enough to derive sales. There needed to be a meaning associated with that color. Chuck Norris became that difference. So when you see Chuck Norris with this red bottle, then you know when you open the cooler door, you're looking for the red bottle because you're looking really for Chuck Norris. The bottles changed the design too. Instead of seeing Chuck Norris's tiny signature below the black C, we made Chuck Norris top of mind. We put a little illustration on the top where people would be able to see it a little bit easier. We even changed their marketing material so that at the point of sale, we have Chuck Norris there selling water instead of a big logo or a big icon that said purity has arrived. Obviously, this is much more compelling. Even the large packaging we introduced Chuck Norris in that. As a result, Chuck Norris's brand took off. Okay, let's try a little exercise here. Let's see, Paul, I'm gonna pick on you for a second, Paul. So when we're gonna look at your brand attributes, what are some brand attributes you have, like origin, processes, founder? What are some things? And there's two different ways to find your brand spark. One is to mine for it that exists already in the company, and the second is to create a brand spark. Kind of like what we did for Maverick. Adventure has little to do with gasoline, nachos, hot dogs, and things like that. It has very, very little to do with it. But it created a visual language and a personality that made it highly differential in the convenience store ecosystem. So tell me a little bit about what do you think is different about your business?
So if Chuck Norris was doing science, he would choose Echelon Biosciences.
And why? What is it about Echelon that's so different from all the other?
So I will
not your product, and please don't tell me about your product. Tell me about your business. What makes your business different?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, I'll start with the origin story. Okay. And you can maybe help us find that, just like you said, help us find the spark. So we were founded by two professors that were highly, internationally recognized scientists that happened to work together here at the University of Utah.
Okay.
So
So University of Utah scientists, okay?
yep, and the story was that they were kind of so successful in being academic scientists, if you will, that they were getting so many requests for their products, these amazing, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to talk about the products.
Right. It's hard, huh?
Yeah, but right, so that they were getting all of these requests coming into their academic lab. They were successful, highly regarded and respected in the field, that they couldn't keep up with the requests. And so they said, well, we should start a company that produces these things if there's that much demand for them. Let's start a company. We'll keep doing our thing over here at the university. Neither of them quit their full-time jobs. They hired a bunch of scientists like us, like they would normally. Graduate students or postdocs, we call them in the business. These are, advanced scientists, but to come and make these products and then, we had to try to sell them, even though none of us were sales folks. They did hire a few business people, right, and to run that part of the business. And but most of us here, right, we're embedded in that the solid quality science that came out of these respected labs.
Is that okay? So you were birthed with highly respectable scientists that were so brilliant that they created a tremendous amount of demand for what they did, and so they hired other brilliant scientists to help facilitate their business, right?
Yeah, that's a good summary.
So would your competitors say, "Yep, if you want a sciencey brand or sciencey company, you got to go over there because we don't have the pedigree that those guys have"? Or would they say, "We're also super sciencey"?
Yeah, they would definitely say the same thing. Like, yeah, trying to one up your science-ness.
Yep. So that might be like the basketballers. Think about the basketballers. Like we are really, really good at basketball. The Lakers are really, really good at basketball. Well, then no, the Chicago basketballers are better at basketball. Well, who's the best? Depends on who can spend the most money and convey the most amount of persuasive arguments. Instead of going, well, really, it's not about the basketball. It's about our company. And so someone like you guys might find, oh man, it's really, really hard to find a difference in our DNA. You might have to take a strategy like Maverick, where you go, what would be different, completely out of the box, that our competitors would never even follow? And you'd go, okay, you're the adventure brand, or the, maybe all your guys love outdoors. Maybe there's, you have a Western flair, golf. And like we did with MJ Impostado, her whole brand spark was about a freaking peacock feather. Can you build a brand on a peacock feather?
Yes, you can.
Absolutely.
Yes, you can. So what's really interesting and really fun about this is that it's less important what it is that makes you different. It's how you create that visual look and feel to represent that difference. And finding your brand spark is super, super challenging, because especially for an existing business, because you have to ask the questions that few people want to ask, because there are so many things that are already established or accepted as the status quo. Like, no, it's our scienciness. Our pedigree is top notch. Well, who's going to have the guts to say, I don't think that's what it is? That becomes very, very challenging. It's like a dentist working on his own teeth. It's super, super challenging. But there's a process. There is a process. And by the way, I want to make sure everyone gets a copy of my book. But there's a process that outlines the questions that you can ask the organization to divine what that spark really is. You go through the whole process of mining for the spark, And then if you can't really find something compelling, and you know you've landed on the right brand spark when it elicits a lot of creative ideas for marketing and promotion. Like, for example, Chuck Norris. Purity creates, you know, if you're talking about purity, purity is often associated with either nature, green trees, creeks, streams, trickling water. Okay, those visual elements for purity are overdone in the water business. Like, everybody has some type of trickling water stream source visual. So if C-Force was to use that as their purity symbol strategy, they would be lost in the sea of sameness. The second type of purity would be clinical. That's sterile. It's a laboratory, super, super pure. All right. Unfortunately, that has no appeal. There's nothing like, oh, I'm thirsty. What I need is a clinical water born in a lab. That's no longer even attractive. So purity becomes like a no starter. When you get to Chuck Norris, you go, oh my gosh, Chuck Norris has this appeal for, you know, he's got this cowboy Western appeal. He's got this karate appeal. He has action hero appeal. And if you're under 40, under 30, you know him as the guy with the memes. When Chuck Norris cuts onions, onions cry. When Chuck Norris took a hand grenade, threw it, killed 15 men, and then the hand grenade went off. Like, these kinds of memes would, like, what if we put a meme in the underneath the bottle cap of every bottle cap, and we made it a collector's thing? Well, what if we put Chuck Norris on a billboard and we said, punch thirst in the throat, or do a roundhouse kick to thirst? Or when you start coming up with lots of fun ideas to promote your product, you know you've landed on a really good brand spark. Okay, that's the first step, is find your brand spark. Let's move on to the next one. Is you've got to, when you find your brand spark, you have to make sure that it's connecting to your core audience. So identify your target audience. We're making an acronym here. F, find your brand spark. I, identify your target customer. If you fished at all, you know how important it is to know exactly what you're fishing for, because that tells you what bait to use and then what bodies of water to fish in. If you know who your customers are, you know what trade shows to go to, you know what medium to use to find them. You also know what's appealing to them and attractive to them. So you can create a visual look and feel that highlights your brand spark in a way that they go, oh, I like these guys. I am connected with these guys. I choose to do business with these guys. Or if not, I just choose to learn more about their business. So that's why it's so important to identify your target customers. And I remember in the convenience store world, we would argue about this all the time. Our customers were people, anybody who bought gas or ate food, because we would serve fuel and food to all those people. Well, that's true. Those are our customers, but that's not our target customer. Our target customer are the people who buy the most from us the most often. And there's a big difference between a white collar professional who needs to look good, look sharp. He's got a suit. He's not coming in and buying 2 breakfast burritos, an energy drink, some Cheetos, a Mountain Dew, and then on the way, and then for lunch, he's coming back for, another burrito, and then on the way home, he's grabbing some beer. Now that's a perfect customer for a convenience store. If we were to spend marketing and advertising dollars on that white collar worker, if we were to land them, they're probably not going to buy very much from us. So we'd spend a lot of money trying to get them to be attracted to our brand and then not get a lot of money from them. So we target a customer who is most likely to bring us the most amount of money. And we're highly attracted to those people. Now, if we're not as attractive to like a white collar or a white collar woman or whatever, because we're too adventurous, that's fine. The white collar woman who's really, really careful about her figure, she's not buying 2 burritos and an energy drink. We're not making much money from her. She's buying a pack of gum and a bottle of water. I'd much rather have 5 of the other than 5 of these women. So create your message that's highly attractive to that core customer that's most likely to buy your product. So here's a quick illustration. During the pandemic, I created a YouTube channel called Sketchy, teaching kids how to draw. And I was super, super frustrated with the lack of performance. And I'm gonna show you this crazy graph. The graph is not important, but what it basically does is it shows you all of my competitors. I analyzed all my competitors in this space, all these different channels that would create sketches or videos teaching kids how to draw or teaching people how to draw. And I could see that my results, like I'm highlighted in green there, Sketchy. I had 3,820 subscribers. I had 108 videos. And you would think the more videos you have, the more subscribers you'd have. And this is over the course of just a little over a year. And I could see that the people who had fewer videos than me were way more popular than I was. And so I'm like, what in the world is the deal here? I'm a branding expert. I should know this stuff. But I am like falling way, way behind. So I paid like $800 for an hour to consult with this YouTube expert. And he said, your problem is, look at your content. Your content's all over the place. You've got this in the top left-hand corner, you got this little Ninja Kids logo. It's very simple, cute, easy. And then you've got these how to draw like anime characters. And then you've got like how to draw like a baby shark and a Spider-Man and how to draw a Labradoodle. And you're all over the place. And I go, yeah, I have all this variety. And he says, that's what's wrong with your channel. The problem with your channel is you're not attracting the same type of person. So the way the YouTube algorithm works is once an audience, somebody watches a video, YouTube serves up another video in your library. If the audience person, that customer, watches a sequential video, your rating on the YouTube algorithm goes up. If an audience member watches 3, 4, 5 videos in a row, your videos are going to be promoted more and more and more, because it's basically learning that your content is highly valuable to this audience. The problem was my content was not attractive to the same customer. The 6 to 8 year old artist loved to learn how to draw baby sharks, but they didn't really love learning to draw a realistic dog face. The teenagers wanted to learn how to draw the anime characters, but they didn't care about learning how to draw baby sharks. So I had all this variety, and I was not focused on the same target customer. So even someone like me, who's a branding expert, I get it wrong too. So I had to redefine that YouTube channel to develop a character. By the way, if you ever watch a Sketchy video, I have a lateral lisp. I'm like, hey guys, it's time to watch Sketchy, which is awesome for little kids, but terrible for teenagers. So my product wasn't even targeted to these different audiences. So that's why understanding your target customer is so important and a little bit challenging. So how do you define your target customer? You identify your target customer based on a variety of different things. And these are some of the things you use: age, gender, occupation, what industry they're in, what income they have, the size of both the size of the person, because if they're heavy or overweight, that might be the right target for a diet program or an exercise program or whatever. Location, where do these people live? What are their interests and hobbies? All those different things come into consideration. So even if you're selling business to business, a business isn't buying your product, it's a person buying your product. Who is that person? What is their role and responsibility? And how are they similar to all the other people that buy from you? It's really helpful to then define a avatar, a person that generally defines who your target customer is. You might even name this person so that you go, is my message directed to that person? Does it look and feel like it's attractive to that person? That's why your target customer is so important. And then R is realize your core belief. We don't have a lot of time for this, but realizing your core belief filters the message that you convey in your marketing materials. So for example, Coca-Cola's might be, the joys in life are centered around family and fun. Everything they do shows this family and fun. At Maverick, when I was working there, we determined that adventure elevates life. That's a core belief that we all held. And that drove the passion and the feeling behind making sure all the marketing and advertising conveyed that belief. Everything we did was driven by this belief that adventure elevates life. And so if we could incorporate adventure into all of our messaging, we would engage the audience that we wanted to engage in the way we wanted to engage them. So the last one, we'll spend a little bit of time on this, is establish your brand adjectives. This is a lot easier than most of these other ones because you can't get it wrong. And the way you do that is you identify your favorite brands. What I mean by favorite brands is, if my company could look and feel like brand X, Y, or Z, which brand would I want them to look and feel like? So, for example, Apple, Tesla, Disney. Underneath each brand, you would write how you would describe that brand. What adjectives would you use to describe that brand? So I took the liberty of saying, Apple is cool, easy, simple, techy, stylish, fun, creative. Well, if I like Tesla, I might say cool. Looks like COD there, but it's really cool. Stylish, techy, eco-friendly, easy. Disney is fun, creative, inclusive, exciting, immersive. Then you basically circle all the common adjectives. This exercise is really just meant to figure out, like, what are you drawn to? What do you like? And the reason this is important from a personal standpoint is that oftentimes the people going through this exercise are the brand leaders. They need to feel comfortable with the brand they're going to portray. It's very, very hard to work in an industry for a brand that doesn't reflect your personal values and experiences. You have to pretend to be excited about that brand when you come to work. Now, employees, frontline employees and stuff, they're usually attracted to brands that they want to work for. But they need to be clearly articulated so that the customer or the employee comes in and goes, oh, the reason I want to work for Apple is because I align with these adjectives. I want to be described as cool, techy, stylish, fun, and creative, right? So you choose these things and you go, okay, these are the adjectives that we want in our brand. And then once you have those adjectives, you choose the brand elements, the color response, textures, logos, things like that reflect that personality. All right. Okay. So we won't have time to go through this, but I would go through that exercise of like identifying one of you guys has like, how would you define your what brands that you would love to be like? This is the exercise we would go through. But for time's sake, you know what I'm going for, and this is something you can do with your brand group. Whoever's going to be involved with the brand in your company, whether if you're an individual, it's just you. But if you're the company, you might have the marketing director, VP of sales or marketing, maybe the CEO, and whoever's in charge of the overall brand. You might even bring in the outside designer or something like that. And then you go through this exercise. Once you've defined these 4 steps, find your brand spark, identify your target customer, realize your core belief, and establish your brand adjectives, then you grab all the color response, textures, and stuff like that, and build a library, a set of ingredients that when you use those ingredients on a consistent basis, they'll convey that brand to your customer. It'll be easy for your customer to identify. It'll elicit specific feelings and emotions for those customers. And when you keep doing it over time, you develop a affinity. Your customers develop an affinity or love for the brand. Once you have these library elements, then you have a designer create what I call like a stylescape. It's basically, these are the types of elements that you would use from these ingredients into a brand that looks and feels like a brand. These are 2 different variations of the same one. One's a little more muted and one's a little more saturated. The one on the top is a little more saturated. Which one feels right? Which one feels best for me? Once you've identified that, you canonize it in a brand Bible. And this says, these are the fonts, these are the colors, these are the textures, these are the elements that we use. And it's designed in a way to reflect that brand overall. So that when anybody resources the brand, develops any kind of marketing materials, trade show materials, whatever, they're all singing from the same hymn book, or they're all cooking from the same pantry. So I want to take a minute here. I just kind of dumped a whole bunch of information on you. I want to take a minute here and leave some time for questions. What specific questions do you guys have? I'm happy to take any questions you have. Sam, you have any questions for me? You good?
I'm good right now. I'm still trying to take it all in. I'm just trying to build a small business. So I just have an idea at this point. So nothing to jump on immediately.
Gotcha. So you have a small business idea. You probably have a product in mind, right?
It's a service.
And you have an idea of who your customer is going to be.
Correct.
Right. The next steps for you to do are like, how do you want your customers to feel? Because 95% of the purchase decision is based on emotion and subconscious. The next step for you would be like, what do I want these customers to feel, or these potential customers to feel when they're exposed to my ad or my marketing materials, my website? Do I want to feel like, oh my gosh, these guys are awesome. These guys are exciting.
And I want to, just like your advertising for this webinar suggested, I want it to look like I've been in business a long time. I'm established, bigger than I am. It's not just a startup.
Yeah.
And so I'm still just processing everything. And I've loved what you've presented here. It has put a lot of things into perspective. And so I'm just trying to mind meld now how I process that and create what I want to create from what you've presented. So
gotcha. One of the things that I thought was really interesting with the MJ and Pastato brand was she had a really good designer that laid things out nicely. The problem was that she looked professional, but she looked like it looked like an ad or promotion for like an old folks home, not for the audience that she wanted to convey. So while it was professional, it was just completely off target. And so you're a bigger brand, you look like a bigger brand when your brand strategy is reflected in the marketing materials that you have. Frank, what about you? What's resonated with you? What questions do you have? I think he went to sleep. No, he's there. He's there. Sydney, anything from you?
Yeah, it's no, I've gotten a lot of feedback from this so far. Like Sam, I'm selling, a service, not a product. And what is difficult is that I've reached everybody, from an emotional standpoint, from a friend standpoint, from a business, understanding who my target is, from marketing colors, marketing what vocabulary I'm using in marketing, when it comes to LinkedIn, when it comes to emails. I think that's all right. What I'm struggling with, and I'm being very vulnerable right now, is that what company I've gone with in this division, this is an existing business that was acquired, and now that is under a bigger umbrella. So that can be associated with the bigger business. Now our business, our division, creates opportunity and works with the greater company as a whole. So it's, for me, I need to create a marketing or something to differentiate us from our service, from the project management consulting, from the rest of the company. So it creates even bigger opportunity And so, I kind of look at it when you were saying, what is our business and not the product. And so I'm thinking, okay, we cut our coverage, what our team is made up, and how we're reliable and trusted. And I'm kind of pulling that in from this webinar of, showing that, but I'm really still trying to, see how the service and not the product, and how to build my division and make it separate. So customers don't go to the greater company, they go to us for certain parts of targets when it comes to M&A, when it comes to signages and reimages or a larger scale. Sorry, that
Gotcha.
was.
No, I get it. The business that you work for was purchased. So there's a bigger brand. You're developing a service that is like an amendment, an extension of the primary service, right?
Yes.
And you're going, I want that to be the lead in your eyes, right? You want to promote that service, correct?
Yes.
But it has to be under the brand of your, like use the logos and stuff like that of your current brand, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's able to use the brand for marketing for both of the companies, but where I'm getting at is that I do it for the greater part of the company, and then it gets handed off, these smaller jobs to the greater part of the company. And I guess I'm not targeting the right audience to do multi-sites, do multi, I'm just separating us from the bigger brand is what
Gotcha.
what I'm trying to do
Gotcha.
to benefit my division.
Yeah, yours is a little bit different than Sam's. Sam's like, okay, look, I've got a small business. I can start something and be completely unique and different. And you're going, I'm kind of like handcuffed with a brand that I've already. I mean, there's very little you can do about like the look and feel of your brand, but it's how you. Like I wonder for you, and I'd love to be able to go on this offline for another meeting, but kind of explore like a division. It's like brand X, division Y, and then you can develop a personality and a look and feel for that division. Kind of like how Nabisco does. Like Nabisco is a big brand, but Nabisco has all these other little brands underneath it that's highly branded. All their little cookie brands, they're highly branded, like Nilla wafers, right? It's not like vanilla flavored, cookies, right? It's like Nilla wafers. You use them for like pudding and stuff. So, by the way, so each of you guys, I will send you an email because I'd like to spend a little bit of time with you to answer specific questions you have about your business that's not being taken up by the whole. Happy to do that, no charge. It's something I'm passionate about, because if I can get you guys started, then and feel confident about the direction you're going, then I'm super, super excited. You guys will be able to say,